Welcome to this second session of Model 4 Part 2 on optical amplifiers. In first session, I want to brief out. We discussed about basic optical amplifier operation, that is stimulated emission and population inversion. Two important concepts involved in the basic optical amplifier operation. Then we gone through the three general classifications of optical amplifiers like inline, pre and post or booster amplifiers. So then now today we'll see continuation of that gain equation of the semiconductor optical amplifiers. So that we completed in the last video, the session 1. So these are the equations we got there. So here you can see the G naught, it will indicate without any input, optical input, the gain without any optical input, and this it will indicate with optical input that we got in terms of the saturation photon density. So based on that we have simple problem here. So let us see some. Sometimes you will get the problem like this. So so much of huge data is given in the problem itself. We are dealing with indium gallium arsenide phosphate semiconductor optical amplifier operating at 1300 nanometers, which will have these parameters. So let us try to understand the given parameters here. Small w, it will indicate active area width 3 micrometer, active area thickness, that is small d 0.3 micrometer, amplifier length 500 micrometer, capital L. Tau, it will indicate confinement factor. I told in the last video, confinement factor means it will indicate directly how much amount of optical signal is confined to the wall of the core. Okay, so net area of the core contributing for the propagation of optical signal, that is 0.3 here. Time constant 2r is 1 nanosecond, and remaining gain coefficient and threshold densities are given here. So the problem is like this: if 100 milliampere bias current is applied to the device, then if you use this equation, what this equation will give, it will give the pumping rate. He is asking you to find out the pumping rate, that is optical pumping rate, at what rate the photons will be injected into the optical amplifier, that is RP is given by current density divided by the Q into D. We substitute the values here, so finally we are getting like this. So thing is that we should know the formula, and at the end writing the units is very much important here, because one such kind of numerical is fixed in the exam. So we can see here the rate of optical pumping, the unit is a little bit typical here, that is a number of electrons per cubic meter, that is a volume. The number of electrons are there in 1 meter cube volume for every 1 second, that is a rate of optical pumping. Okay, so next is also asking you to find out the gain here, asking you to find out the gain with zero optical signal, that is also known as, it is also known as zero signal gain here. Okay, so this is a zero signal gain. Use the formula and substitute the values here. Finally you are getting the gain as per centimeter here. Okay, so very simple numerical problem, but we need to remember the formulas here. Derivations in detail, intermediate steps, we are not going in deep of this derivation, but all intermediate steps are acting like important formulas, quite used in the solving the problems here. So next we will go for another kind of mathematical discussion related to SOA. After seeing the gain, now we will see the amplifier gain here. very important parameter of optical amplifier, that is signal gain. All we know that it is output to input power. So the radiation intensity of the photon energy, all we know that it is a multiplication of Planck's constant and V, that changes exponentially with the distance in the lasing cavity. Fabry-Perot cavity we have discussed, okay, between two reflecting surfaces or facets. The optical signal is undergoing an integral multiple of lambda of reflections. Only such kind of wavelengths are known as resonant wavelengths, which will be adding at another end of the cavity. So here also the radiation intensity having this much of photon energy undergoing exponential variation with respect to distance. This you have to focus here. Means exponential variation of the photon energy. Okay, exponential variation of the photon energy of a radiation intensity with respect to distance, where in the lasing cavity. Okay, hence the single pass gain in the active medium of SOA, because SOA in the previous video or session 1 we discussed that how it is going to be different from the Fabry-Perot cavity. In Fabry-Perot cavity we are going to increase the gain with multiple pass gain, multiple reflections, but here with only single pass we are able to achieve the boost in the gain. That is the main difference between the SOA and Fabry-Perot cavity. So because of this there is an exponential variation in the radiation intensity with respect to distance in the lasing cavity. Okay, so that some equation we can see here given by this some typical equation. All I want you to remember this one, some typical. So it will indicate this gain, variation of the gain is directly proportional to the length here. So remember the amplifier gain mathematical discussion, mainly we are focusing with respect to the distance here. And you can see the exponential variation with respect to L here, length. So here to the optical component factor in the cavity, GM the material gain coefficient, alpha dash effective absorption coefficient of the material in the optical path, L is the amplifier length, G of Z is the overall gain per unit. So the equation shows that the gain increases with L but is limited by the gain saturation. So let us see what is this gain saturation. So because the carrier density in the gain region of amplifier depends on the optical input. So first we have to understand here in this sentence the gain region. Okay, carrier density in the gain region of an amplifier means how much portion effective area of the core is contributing for this population inversion. That is a gain region where we are getting a significant contribution for the enhancement in the amplifier gain by the carrier density. So let us see what this gain saturation is related to this gain region here. So with the sufficient optical input, an increase in the input signal not leads to further increase in the output level. So by this we can say, so even though we can increase the input, output is not going to show any improvement, any further increase. That is known as a gain saturation. Maybe due to the lack of non-availability of excited carriers with the appropriate level for stimulated emission. So only when this will occur, stimulated emission will contribute or leads to the population inversion. Unless this will occur because of the lack of having excited carriers, we will not get population inversion or amplification. So the thing is that what we can conclude here, even though there is an increase in the input power, output power is not increasing. So the gain is saturated. No more stimulated emission and population inversion and no more amplification. So that's what we actually mean by the gain saturation here. Okay. So hence the carrier density at any point Z in the amplifying cavity depends on the signal level PS of Z. It's something like the power saturation is less in distance Z, smaller distance Z away from the device compared to the larger distance. Okay, power saturation is very much small nearer to the device compared to the larger at a farther away from the device. So that's how the power saturation is going to be related with the length here. Okay, given by here an expression for the gain with respect to Z is given by this, the gain with respect to Z, the gain without any optical input divided by the denominator factor. You can see 1 plus output by input here, amplified saturated power here. That is one type of gain here. Okay, so where G0 is without any signal, the gain we have PS of Z, the internal signal power at point Z, and saturated, the amplifier saturation power, that is the internal power level at which the gain per unit length becomes half. So try to understand the difference between these two. This will be, both are internal only. This is also internal signal power, this is also internal power level. But it is directly to indicate the power will be having internally at a distance Z from the transmitter. But this will indicate saturated power means what? What do you mean by saturated power? Even though you increase further increase in the input, there is no any further increase in the output. Then we can say the gain is saturated or power is saturated. So in that case, the internal power level will become, or gain will become half. So the condition is that only when both these two will become equal now, or when internal signal power at distance Z becomes equal to saturation power, then you can see 1 by 1 it will become to denominator here. What you will get? The gain at distance Z will become the gain without input divided by 2. Okay, that is the meaning of amplifier saturation power here. Okay, so hope you are understanding this, and like that I want all of you to include these things in your answers. You revise it again and again, try to summarize the answers. Okay, don't repeat your mistakes again and again by just simply copying some texts. Okay, next, hope that's what we actually mean by amplifier saturation power here. Okay, so hence the gain coefficient in the above equation is reduced by factor 2 when internal signal power is equal to amplifier saturation. That's what just we discussed. The same thing. So in an incremental dz, the light power increases by this much, and if you use these two equations, okay, if you use these previous two equations, so finally you will get this one. So if you work out this one, hope you can easily get it. So please work out this derivation, the previous the static gain derivation and this one amplifier gain derivation as far as SOA is concerned. So it is very much important derivation. So when you start with distance Z equal to 0 to L, transmitter to some distance L, so we need to integrate that one. So then what we will get? Signal single power gain without light, that is exponential variation is there. So using that equation, what you can get, the final equation is this much. Okay, if you work out this one, you can easily get it. The steps are not so much difficult. Only thing, some of the things you have to remember, some typical formulas we are getting. So we are not going in deep about the derivations. At this level, only this superficial derivation is sufficient. So that's all with respect to semiconductor optical amplifiers. So next we'll switch on to another type of optical amplifier, that is known as erbium doped fiber amplifiers. which are also known as short form EDFA. So basically, if you look at the definition here, erbium is one element here, very rare earth element, one of the rare earth element here, like listed here, thulium, TM is there, praseodymium, like that. Okay, and so lightly doped that it will be having 10 to 30 meter length of optical fiber. It is very much lightly doped, and its core is made up of this like this erbium doped fiber amplifiers. Sorry, not core. The amplifier element what we are using this is made up of erbium. So operating reasons of such this kind of optical amplifier EDFA depends on the rare earth elements, okay, and doping level, whether you are doping lightly or more heavily, like that. So the popular material what we are using for the long haul telecommunication application, here it is a silica fiber doped with iridium. Okay, there is another kind of a silicon based optical amplifier where mainly focusing on the long haul telecommunication applications doped with iridium, a rare earth element. That's what that will complete the basic definition for the EDFA. Okay, EDFA how we will define? It is one of the silica based optical fiber amplifier doped with one of the rare earth elements like iridium, mainly used for the long haul telecommunication application. Okay, hope you are understanding how to define this exactly, the EDFA. Okay, so let us see some more information related to this. It is operating basically in the C band compared to some other devices, that is SOA what we discussed in the last session, which is going to operate from 1220 to 16 something nanometers. Apart from C, it is also operating in some other bands, but here it is specifically operating in 1530 to 16 nanometers, that is a C band there. Okay, so you've seen how to define EDFA and what the wavelength band it is going to operate. So these are the two important factors I want you to remember here. So next, before we'll go for amplification mechanism or working, let us have some glance over the background of this EDFA. This is very much important. So already just in the previous slide we have seen it is operating in the C band from 1530 you can see to 1560, and this is the graph of wavelength versus transmission loss, decibels per kilometer. Okay, so at 1000 nanometer you can see the loss is very high, beyond around 1.5 decibels per every 1 kilometer. It is happening. Okay, it goes on decreasing and it is low in the O band, but in a E band it is showing a peak rise here. In transmission loss is more, around 1400 nanometers. Okay, around 1400 nanometers. That is if you are operating this EDFA. No, in the E band it is not suitable. No. Telecom optical wavelength bands. E band is not EDFA is not suitable to be used in the E band. Except that actually what we are expecting, this curve, exponential curve should be expected to be like this, goes on decreasing. Only this one peak is a drawback, you can think of it on the side of the EDFA. Except that in the S, C and L bands it is very low. So that's why normally EDFA practically we are using in the last two bands, C and L bands. Okay, 1530 in the C band, 1560 in the L band, like that, as transmission loss is very less. Okay, so coming back to this one, so normally these EDFAs are used as one is inline amplifiers that we have seen in the last session. Its important features are it is going to provide you the minimize the dispersion loss, and also it is also going to minimize almost not required any regenerative feedback. Regeneration of the optical signal is not required. That is going to increase the length between the repeaters, inline amplifiers. Its advanced version is here, or booster amplifier. Here we can increase the distance between the repeaters by 10 and 12 kilometers, but here in terms of hundreds of kilometers. Booster amplifier. Preamplifier, the first stage of receiver, which is going to receive the signal, and if required, distorted, attenuated, it is going to amplify the signal. So these are normally how the EDFA is going to operate in the C band from 1530 to 60 nanometer wavelength band, C band, with these typical types. It may be used as booster or inline or preamplifier depending on your choice or application, like that. So after that, if you go with the amplification mechanism, so normally in SOA we have seen its mechanism is totally based on the current injection. It's totally based on the current injection, external current injection. Again, both are optical amplifiers only. Concept of working will be remaining same only. What are the two concepts of working of the optical amplifiers? Stimulated emission, and another one is population inversion. Here also it is happening, and here also it is happening in both the cases. In SOA also both the concepts are operating, and also in EDFA also both the concepts are working mechanisms for the amplification. In SOA we have used the current injection for stimulated emission and population inversion, but here we are using optical pumping instead of current injection. Here charge carriers are used to boost the energy of the ions or electrons at the lower energy level, so that they can be stimulated and let them to go to higher energy level, like that. Then when they are coming back to the lower energy level, population inversion will be happening and amplification takes place. But only difference is that in place of current injection, now here in EDFA we are using optical pumping. So let us see what is this optical pumping here. So we need 3 or more energy levels here actually required for optical pumping. So in simple sentences, let us try to understand what we basically mean by optical pumping. In first step, after reaching initial excited state, the electron releases some of its energy and drop to lower energy level. Okay, this we know. Okay, after excited to some higher energy level, now electron is not going to reside in the higher energy level for a longer time. Okay, for it will be there for few nano or microsecond. After that, it will jump back to the lower energy level by releasing some of its energy. Okay, so a single photon can then trigger this electron sitting in this new lower level. Now our electron dropped to lower energy level. Now it is sitting in the lower energy level, ready for stimulated emission, ready for the stimulation either by charge carrier or some photons. So in optical pumping we are using photons here. Photons are coming here to trigger the electron sitting in the new lower energy level, that leads to stimulated emission. So concept is very simple. Whether you can use current or photons, everything will lead to stimulated emission, then population inversion. Then the electron releases its remaining energy in the form of photon. Actually that is known as a phonon. Okay, actually this is known as a phonon, having the wavelength same as that of the signal photon. So the thing what you have to remember or try to understand here is the pumping photon. The photon what we are using here to trigger the electron at the lower energy level. Okay, a pumping photon has higher energy. Okay, this photon which is going to trigger the electron has got the higher energy than the photon now it is going to be released. Actually that is known as a phonon. That's what is known as a phonon, because its energy is less compared to the triggering photon. So that's why the pumping photon has got the shorter than this. So this one typical thing you have to remember. So triggering photon has got more energy or shorter wavelength compared to the phonon, which has got lower energy but larger wavelength. Okay, so pumping photon has got low or more energy, so that's why shorter wavelength is there. So this is the main amplification mechanism working behind the EDFA. Okay, so we'll stop here. Next video we'll see the working of this EDFA. Okay.